My name is Dan Meyer. I'm Editor-in-Chief of RCR Wireless News. And today we're going to take a look at the signal booster market and some recent decisions by the FCC on the use of those devices. So joining me today to talk about this interesting topic is Hongtao Zhan, who is CEO of Cellphone-Mate, and also Curt Burkhart, who is the National Sales Manager for Cellphone-Mate. Cellphone-Mate, for those who don't know, and I'll let those guys also explain a bit, is a company that plays in the booster space. So guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. Well, maybe if you can start out, I don't know if maybe Curt or Hongtao, if you want to just do a quick intro of the company, just so people are aware, maybe what Cellphone-Mate does.
All right, Cellphone-Mate has been in the industry for a dozen years or so, and we make signal boosters, which allow the ability to get a better signal indoors, whether that be a home or in-building type situation where there's a lack of signal. So a pretty simple device that has its place in the market, fairly well established.
Perfect. That sounds great. Well, thanks, Curt, for that. So again, we're going to be taking a look at this market today and have these guys kind of run through a quick presentation on the market. We are also going to leave some time at the end for questions from those of you listening in. So if you have any questions, on the GoToWebinar control panel there is a questions tab that you can send in your questions. And like I said, we'll get to as many of those as possible at the end of the webinar. For those that we don't get to, we will also be sharing those questions with the panel members here, and so they can also follow up afterwards. So hopefully get to all those questions that we can. So, and again, for some of you who might have some issues, maybe hearing us at times, please check your settings on your computer just to make sure that the volume is up. But we'll also try to speak as clearly and loudly as possible for that. So let's get started here. So we'll go to the first slide here and let you guys take it away.
All right, thank you very much. And from our perspective, this industry has been formally in place since about 2000, 2001. There's a number of players in the market, including the likes of Wilson and YX and ourselves. SureCall has been involved throughout those years with the FCC, and we should point out that the certification and FCC approval has been part of the process throughout all these years. So having said that, our purpose here today is really to go and give you a kind of real-world understanding of what is happening with the FCC ruling, how it affects us as a manufacturer, and how we see the next several months playing out and what it will do for us in the future. So next, please. And so being that we know that the carriers in general have not been as accepting of these type of products over the years, there's always been a little bit of a battle in that arena. And so having an FCC approved product, yet not having a lot of welcoming from the carriers has made kind of an ongoing battle. So effectively, we espouse the whole ruling because it gives legitimacy to our industry, and it should pave the way for much smoother transitions, both for the consumer and for the larger business type installations. So effectively on February 20th, the FCC made the ruling, and it's probably worth noting that in the debate or the conversational side of that ruling, Commissioner Janikowski actually commented that this ruling should effectively signal a rolling out of the signal booster industry. So after 10 or 11 years of not having that very well clarified, we're at a place now that we're on the sort of the precipice of a new era in this whole industry. So as we get through the slides here, our intention will be to kind of highlight some of these activities and some of the notable parts of the ruling, and Hangtao will certainly begin to add some technical value to this debate. So as we get going, I'll get him more involved here. So after the ruling, I think this paragraph is of value for everyone to understand. In short, because signal boosters represent a cost-effective means of improving our nation's wireless infrastructure, the rules we adopt today should lead to more robust service for many Americans at home, at work, and on the road. And that's exactly how we feel. I mean, there's a clear demand for these products, and now we have a more legitimized position. So what's really the gray area, the things we'll begin to discuss in a few minutes, is how does this new ruling affect current sales and current installations in the field and the marketplace? What are the technical changes that are going to be made to signal boosters in general, and what effectively is the plan going forward? Next. So, before I turn this over to Hong, in many ways, these are the general topics the next coming slides will address. And so we will talk about what's happening currently with FCC-approved product and the process for FCC approval, both with product that's in the market today and what's coming. There's a topic of consent and authorization by carriers we will talk about. There's a bit of a division between consumer and industrial boosters, and we'll talk a lot about how that really plays out in the marketplace. And then again, there'll be technical issues, technical changes in how the signal boosters work, almost at a by frequency level. There's some labeling requirements we'll talk about, and of course, we have the deadline facing us, which is March of 2014. So as we go to the next slide, we'll begin to kind of start tackling those issues.
Perfect. And before we get moving to the next slide, too, I just want to remind those who are listening in that if you do have any questions as we go along here, to please feel free to use the questions tab there on the GoToWebinar control panel. You can send your questions in, and like I said earlier, we will leave some time at the end of this webinar to get some of those questions. So please feel free to send those in, and we'll get to those later. So thanks a lot. So go ahead, Curt. Sorry about that.
All right. So at the heart of the debate, really, since the advent of these products on the marketplace, from the carrier's perspective, and rightfully so, their greatest concern is the integrity of the signal at the tower, and how that affects their ability to service the purest signal that they can for their customer base. So there's no secret that an improperly installed or a too powerful amplifier in a situation too close to a tower has the ability to cause interference with the tower, and therefore, in our opinion anyway, of course, the carrier has every right to come and ask that to desist. And so the question always remained, what happens when the carrier asks you to stop using one of these? Well, for our sake, we were hoping, of course, that there's always the opportunity to fix a situation, and we know of very few cases where getting it right and fixing interference issues was unable to be done. So this ruling actually will help us pave the way to where we know that in most every case we're not causing interference, and we're basically these type products are not showing up on the radar of the carriers, but where they are, the simple mechanism to allow people to fix the situation and continue to use the product, which is providing a service for their home or their business, is provided. So what we see from the ruling is basically a set of guidelines and rules to help everybody play by and allow for continued service with all these kind of products, despite the fact that there are some technical limitations that, you know, it's not like turning on a radio. You do have to have some precautions and caveats during installation. So we'll address those things as well. So the general effect of how this affects consumers is we know that they will be asked to register the devices. And the question that often comes up is, well, you know, what does that mean? And effectively, from a sales guy kind of point of view, when we talk about it, we are interpreting this part of the ruling to be the greater blanket type approval, which would be, you know, akin to the tags on a pillow or a mattress. If the device is engineered and FCC approved to meet all of the guidelines set forth by the FCC, you know, then therefore the product is sold as such, and you get a kind of de facto approval with the tag that goes along with it and the proper labeling. Manufacturers will be sort of put to the test to make sure that each of the products are meet the guidelines, and therefore this process goes forward that way. So if everybody plays their part and role, at least from a consumer viewpoint, it should be very, very simple to purchase, install, and own a home or mobile amplifier. Hong, did you want to add something to that?
Oh, sure. The thing I want to emphasize is the October 2013. So that's the date we see on the ground. You know, when will the signal booster will start being certified in a bench mode. That's by all means is estimation, and it's not an accurate number. But from all we see, that's most likely starting to happen. So for all the dealers, distributors, that's the date you guys might want to mark, and that's when you might want to start the transition to the new signal booster. All right.
So effectively, you know, the transition to the new improved signal boosters at every level will begin somewhere around October when the testing labs are fully able to do such testing. So there's still a little bit of work to be done there, but at that point we will begin to get approved product out the door and be able to transition stock and things like that. So those are issues that will begin to start to come in play about that time.
Okay, sounds good. And then also, I just want to also remind everyone who's listening in that if you do have any questions for our panel members to please send those in using the question box there on the GoToWebinar control panel. And like I said earlier, we'll get to some of those questions at the end of the webinar. So please send those in. All right, guys, back to you.
All right. So in this case, sort of the point of this slide is to try and highlight the fact that despite the fact that there are some advertisements or press releases to the contrary, really effectively no signal boosters on the market today meet the new requirements. And so we should all know that there's going to be a transition, you know, that all the non-compliant product that is being sold today and is already installed are effectively grandfathered in according to the law, but there will be a time, you know, that date looming in the future in March 2014 when they'll no longer be acceptable. So we're preparing for that. I know all the other manufacturers are too. But there is an allowance set forth by the FCC in this document so that people who have installed units throughout the country. There's tens of thousands and millions of them. Those are all effectively grandfathered. The only caveat to that is that in the case where there are instances of interference, that the carrier still has every right to ask that that cease, but we get the opportunity to rectify the situation and make it good. So I think Hong would like to comment on that.
Sure. This is the importance. We want to let everybody know, all the dealers, distributors, installers, VARs, everybody, that we want to emphasize that no signal booster on the market right now, both from the technical perspective, all from the labeling perspective, meet the requirements of FCC new ruling. You can easily see from next couple of slides. The technical requirements is much more strict moving forward. The labeling requirements is the same. So if you're selling the same thing, the same devices you're selling today, after March 1st, 2014, you will be in trouble. So make sure you understand that. So that's the message. We have to make this transition as an industry. We have to work together as an industry. So we don't want people got confused. This is very important. Thank you.
All right, I think we can go to the next slide. So this part is addresses how the carriers are going to be responsible in this. Part of this whole document is that there's carrier requirements as well. So knowing that they will have to address having some formal ability to register and provide the authorization is known to be part of the document, but we will, we're a little bit at the mercy of how they go ahead and create that. So one of the things we'll be waiting for is some feedback from either the Carriers Association or the carriers individually, how they're going to actually initiate these type of incentives. So we see here that at the minimum, a licensee will collect basically the name of the booster and its operators, makes and models, where it's located, and its initial operation date. And all of that information will be, can be provided by the dealer as well. And so I think Hong has some information about how that mechanism is intended to work.
Regarding registration?
Yeah.
Yes. From legal perspective, manufacturer or distributor or dealers are not liable for the registration. It's up to the consumer or business. However, what we think the best approach could be that actually we strongly encourage dealers, retailers, probably not distributors, to help or register for the consumer, for the end user, so that this whole registration thing is stimulated. It costs least resistance, trouble with consumers and users. Carriers obviously are responsible for set up a registration mechanism, free and online. They have the same deadline as we do. Today, as of today, I don't think any carrier has finished that work yet. So as a result, today, if you're a consumer, even if you want to register, you might have difficulty find a place to register your signal booster. So that's where we are today. So if you couldn't find a place to register, you're not liable, I would think. So that's a ballpark of the registration.
Okay, so if we move on to the next slide, I think we begin to get to an important division in the ruling itself. So the FCC statement says that we'll allow for consumer signal boosters and industrial signal boosters, and the consumer signal boosters are designed to be used out of the box and do not need fine-tuning or other technical adjustments. And they should be able to, individuals should be able to install a consumer signal booster without installer assistance. So having said that, and this is where an area that we'll talk in subsequent slides, but it may be interesting to note that even the most powerful amplifier that we sell more or less fits the consumer signal booster guideline, obviously with some adjustments yet to be made by the deadline. And so that distinction will become an even more and greater detail in lots of things that are being done at the FCC level today. I know our attorney working with Hong in close association with the FCC and other manufacturers are all involved in certain filings for reconsideration. So there's yet to be a lot of work done in truly defining, you know, how and where a consumer signal booster is to be utilized. And we're relatively optimistic that it's a pretty broad category, and we'll go into that in just a minute. On the industrial side, we know that their definition or classification covers a large number of signal booster type activities, including DAS or distributed antenna solutions, and that they're extensively and successfully in use today. They do not seek to curtail their use in the future, and they're designed to serve multiple users simultaneous and cover large areas such as stadiums, airports, office buildings, tunnels, and educational campuses. So this begins the great debate as to where, is there a line, and what is the line separating industrial? Is there an area where only an industrial solution is at play, and are there areas where one might think industrial boosters are the solution, but consumer boosters may be a viable alternative as well? Hong, you want to add to that, or?
Sure. Obviously, as Curt has mentioned, the consumer signal booster, the higher end of the consumer signal booster today, it could be reaching 80 dBs. With the new ruling, the power has to be limited in some ways. So it might not in the future after March 2014. It might not be as powerful as today. I'm talking about the wideband. For the narrow bands, FCC does give another separate specs for the narrowband consumer signal booster, which allow higher dB, bigger coverage area. So all in all, if I have to make a prediction, the prediction is for the next 5 or 10 years. I would predict the consumer signal booster, the signal booster that's certified under this category, under the FCC certification process, actually will find its way in the next couple of years into a lot of business and industrial application one way or the other, simply because it's so much more cost-effective and it's just so much more less trouble, less hurdle to use it, even for business. The industrial signal booster, on the other hand, there might be another FCC proceeding for that. The industrial part is not, there are still issues there from legal perspective. Some portion of it is not well defined. So that's what we say for the business part of it. And of course, the consumer signal booster will prevail in the consumer market. That's for sure.
Okay, so I think what we've identified is sort of a gray area in the overall debate. And for those of you who've been able to read this this next slide, I think what we're just getting to is that even the FCC understands that there's that small business and opportunities for consumer boosters is great out there. So I'm going to move to the next slide, and we can address some of these questions as they come up. So I'm going to again turn this over to Hong to talk a little bit about each of these points. But basically, what we're saying is that there are technical limitations being put on various components of the signal boosters that we're addressing, and I'm just going to give it to Hong.
Sure. Once we go through all those tech specs, you guys will be able to see why all the signal boosters currently on the market are not compliant with the new rules. The number one thing we see that's most important, that the new changes, the higher demands from the new ruling is the linearity. So for all the signal boosters on the market, other than the Cellphone-Mate high end of the signal boosters are not linear as of today. However, FCC does require certain level of linearity moving forward. So it will test from now on. It will testing the IM3, the intermodulation products. It will make sure it's linear. It can carry a couple of phone calls at the same time simultaneously. So that's one of the biggest things. That will itself could drive cost up. Manufacturers are all working hard trying to reduce that cost. So that's one of the biggest requirements. And the next tech requirements is the power. The power has been limited. The output power has been limited to 1 watt EIRP. So that's that is significant also because remember currently the maximum power could be 3 watt EIRP on the cellular bands. So that requirement could hurt the rural area end users. But that's what it is. That's what what we got after all the grand bargain. All the negotiation with carriers. That's what we got. So the gain control, it's also automatic. So basically, moving forward, all the signal booster has to have automatic gain control, automatic shutdown. But those features are pretty common in most of the amplifiers on the market today from mainstream manufacturers. all our wireless amplifiers have similar features, so that's the easier part. The oscillation detection, yeah, those are the features are required by law as well. And I don't see major problems there for people to combine that neither, at least for the mainstream manufacturers. The linearity might be the hardest and the new thing. So that's all for the tech requirements.
All right, and so let's move on, and we're going to get through the next couple of slides pretty quickly and open this up to some of the good questions that are coming in. So as far as labeling is concerned, it's suffice it to say we're going to comply with the FCC's requirements, but they're pretty much more for the manufacturer to comply with. Dealers and distributors won't have too much to do with it, but you know, it's going to require a sort of point of sale and owner's manual type modifications, and of course there'll be stickers or, like I said, the tag on the pillow type documentation to go with every signal booster. So and registering the device, again, as I said, there will be a big onus on the carriers to provide a mechanism for doing that. So we kind of wait for that to occur. So if we go ahead and move on to the next slide, and again the next, I think we can get to the point where we're talking about questions. So just finishing through this, I think we'll wrap up as we get to the end of our time, but I think we should put it out to questions now.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, hey guys, definitely appreciate the insight there and on some information. And like you said, we did get quite a few questions coming in. And I want to also remind those who are listening in that if you do have questions, please feel free to use the questions tab there on the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll get to some of those questions here. And the ones that we don't get a chance to get to, we will be sharing those with the panel members, so there should be some time for some follow-up, perhaps offline afterwards. So like you said, we did get quite a few questions in here. I know we've been trying to respond to those as we can. A lot of the questions have been about getting a copy of this presentation, and we will have this available on the RCR Wireless website after this webinar is over. So please feel free to check there for the presentation. But let's see. So one of the first questions looks like we got in was, you know, I guess asking about, I guess, does the FCC see the boosters as being part of a head net component, so part of the overall picture of the heterogeneous network where it becomes small cells and different ways for carriers to expand the coverage of their networks? I guess, do you guys view kind of what the FCC has decided upon when it comes to the booster market as boosters being part of the kind of that general head net ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah, what we think, yes, definitely, booster, now that being 100% legal, is going to be part of the future network. Actually, important part of the future network. If you look at it from the network point of view, I want to point out where booster sits. Booster is more on the end user side, consumer side, and it's controlled by end user, by the consumer, not on the other side, meaning the network side, which controlled by carriers. That's the importance between the one of the important difference between the signal booster and the small cell, picocell, you know, all the other, you know, fancy cells that's coming out every day. And the second difference is in terms of technology is, I mean, that's the beauty of the signal booster. The signal booster, even though it's low cost, is actually carrier neutral. It typically covers all the carriers, all, you know, multiple carriers, in the case of the FOX5, the 5-band signal boosters we invented, it covers everybody, 2G, 3G, and 4G. So it's more it's neutral. You can think of it as a neutral host in a minimal way. That is very low cost. So as a result, it should prevail. It should prevail.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I guess another question that came in was asking about, I guess, who will be doing the actual testing and certifying of booster products? Will it be the FCC or independent lab?
That's a good question. Definitely, as always, all the testing will be done initially by FCC lab. In the future, it could be done by FCC certified lab, the TCB. So yes, it's the FCC. It's not the even if it's an independent lab in the future, that lab has to be FCC certified. It has to have the authority from FCC. So in terms of that, there's no difference from all the certification process we've been going through for the last decades. Also, it's the same certification body, same procedure. The only difference is the technical requirements now. Is also approved by Verizon, by AT&T, by all the carriers. So effectively, the signal booster, once it goes through the certification, it's network friendly. It's approved by carriers and FCC. So that which is great because it removed all the concerns moving forward.
Got it. Okay. All right. Makes sense. And another reminder for those of you listening in, if you do have any questions, please feel free to send those in using the questions tab there on the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll get to those as many as we can here. Looks like we got another question that come in. I guess looking at the registration process and perhaps for businesses, someone's asking, how will a business register a booster when their employees are working through several different wireless providers? I mean, obviously, since boosters are somewhat vendor neutral, it seems like multiple carriers or multiple devices from different carriers can access service through it. So I guess how's the process for registering a booster for a business that has employees using wireless devices from different manufacturers?
That's an excellent question. The answer to that is, first of all, yes, all the signal boosters have to be registered in the future. For the consumer, obviously it's easy. You just register with your current existing carriers you're using. For the business, what we recommended is if you're using for all the carriers, you should register for as many carriers as possible, or might as well just register with all the carriers. It's a little bit, time-consuming to do that. That's why we recommend, the dealers or the installers to do that as a service to, to helping the process, whether for the fee or free, just to make it easier. The process itself is just online registration. It shouldn't be that difficult. Then the question rise is, what if I only, for a business, what if I only use the 3 carriers and my customer come in incidentally using 2 other carriers? Let's say if I'm a coffee shop, my employee only has 3, using 3 services, 3 out of 5 services. So the answer to that is, if that's the case, you only need to register for 3. You don't have to register for 5 because the other 2 based on the FCC ruling, could be considered incidental usage. It's a little bit like, let's say if you have a consumer signal booster at home, you're registered with Verizon. If your neighbor come in, he's using AT&T phone and a service. Incidentally, he used your signal booster. That's legal. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to register with AT&T just because your neighbor come in, once a year or whatever. So same thing applies. So you register for 3, the other 2 consider incidental. That should be sufficient.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So again, you basically just have to worry about the dominant service providers on that booster, and then if, like you said, if it's incidental usage, that is all legal as part of the FCC ruling there.
That's right. That's right. Actually, you can find all the legal language in that ruling. Yes.
If I can add to that discussion, the principal gray area that we mentioned before is kind of at play here, because a lot of small businesses will employ consumer level signal boosters, and as such the booster itself will come with sort of a self-registration, more or less automatic registration process, as we discussed earlier, like the tags on a pillow. So for a lot of small businesses, the debate of how do we register at that point should go away. And in the case where a carrier comes to that small business and wants to suggest that there may be a problem, or they want to know about the signal booster in general, they will have that registration already, and then they can work with the carrier and the manufacturer, if need be, to solve an incidence of some interference or noise, which may be the reason the carrier came by in the first place. So I think for a lot of the topic, while some of these issues are still in filings for reconsideration to be better discussed, this gray area will still exist for a little while, and we make sort of the presumption that consumer-level signal boosters will carry sort of this already, more or less already registered certification, and probably a singular registration with a clearinghouse type registration might be in effect.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And it seems like the key to all this is just making it very easy for those who do have boosters to register these. Like you mentioned, the online process is a pretty simple process to do. That seems to be kind of the major part of this, is to make sure it's easy on the end user to get these registered.
Right. That's the part that we're kind of counting on as the carriers devise a mechanism for themselves. And we think because of the sheer numbers and the complexity of registering consumer devices, that's exactly why the tag on the mattress or pillow sort of concept is what will come into play. So again, the gray area is for some small, medium, and even large businesses which employ consumer-level signal boosters. There will probably be some sort of next-level registration. That is yet to be determined.
Got it. Okay. All right. Makes sense. Looks like we got some more questions here. And a reminder for those listening in that if you do have some questions, please feel free to use the questions tab there on the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. Looks like another question looking at, I guess, the use of boosters and how this might impact like public safety fire code requirements. Is that an issue at all at this point with boosters trying to make sure they're compliant with public safety issues?
Sure. As of right now, the signal booster is using different frequency bands, and as FCC lab actually test strictly about out-of-band emission, out-of-band interference. So if I'm telling you, the new rule is much more strict than the old rules. So we don't anticipate any interference with the public safety devices because it's a different band. It's they're on different bands. So that shouldn't be an issue at all. For all these years, over a decade we've been in this business, we rarely see any interference between our device versus public safety devices. In your honesty, we probably, at the current level, we probably see one interference issue within every couple thousand signal booster we ship. So I'm talking about the power interference with the cellular, you can see the incident is already very real. As far as the power is concerned, it's probably 0.03%, 0.1% in that neighborhood is very real. Remember, that's we're talking about older signal booster. With moving forward next year with the new with the new ruling taking place, we would predict the interference incident could happen only once, tenfold less. We're talking about a 0.01% or something in that neighborhood is very real. It's not going to happen often. The new rule is very strict, very strict. So that shouldn't be, interference shouldn't be a worry moving forward. It could be like if you have interference issues, you're kind of like winning a lottery. That kind of probability, very real.
Okay, all right, makes sense. Looks like we got another question here from someone who might be a retailer asking, I guess, is there, looking at an exchange program for distributors who are looking to, get the new compliant boosters into their warehouses and take care of the older ones? Is there a program you guys are working on to facilitate that process?
Yes. So what we envisioned, what's going to happen between now and March 1st next year is somewhere, in the middle, after October. I think manufacturer is going to, like us, is going to send out the notice to all the dealers and the distributors. Probably will give you guys a very reasonable deadline for you to finish all the, RMAs, exchange, returns for the old version of the signal boosters. So yes, the transition should happen way before March 1st, 2014, so that by March 1st, 2014, everything you have in your warehouse, everything you're selling, everything your customer had recently, hopefully, are all the new compliant signal boosters. So it has happened sooner than March 2014.
Got it. Okay. And then looks like another follow-up maybe on that as well is someone asking, as far as the labeling goes, will the resellers need to have the label information on their websites and marketing materials related to the new products when those are available?
Well, if I can address that, certainly we will provide in advance all of the materials that anybody will need as it becomes even more clear to us. So we'll do all the labeling. Most of the labeling burden will be on the manufacturers, and we will of course be adjusting all of our documentation and materials to reflect it. So we will definitely be taking care of that all in advance. And Dan, if I could interject, I've seen a couple other some good questions that came up that touched on something Hong said a few minutes ago regarding the technical specifications of product as they're being redeveloped.
Yep.
Some people have asked direct questions about a particularly popular product of ours called the Force 5.
Yep.
And it's so just so people know that for the most part today, our Force 5, as powerful as it is, for the most part would be considered a consumer signal booster. Now, it isn't as it is, and so it is being redeveloped, and as such, when it is redeployed as the new Force 5, it will still meet the consumer guidelines. It'll just be somewhat less powerful, and this again effectively will be the product that is at the heart of that gray area debate, we think. So just so people know that the Force 5, as our plan is today anyway, is being reconstituted really to be effectively meet all of the requirements on each of the 5 bands independently to be a consumer level product.
Got it. And I guess what's the time frame do you guys expect that to be available? I'm guessing probably in line with some of these FCC requirements.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it has to. It has to. Yeah. The new version has to get out the door before the March 14th. Actually, months before March 14th.
Got it. Okay. It looks like we've gotten quite a few questions, various ways it's been placed, but I guess just general concern about how carriers are reacting to this, how carriers will handle this. I mean, it sounds like the carriers were part of this decision-making process with the FCC. I don't know if you guys want to add a little bit at all about just I guess what you've heard from carriers when it comes to the deployment of these boosters. I mean, it does seem like there is some concern that carriers might be some might not be in favor of this as much as others, but from your guys' point of view, what's been the general consensus from carriers when it comes to the use of these boosters and getting registered on the networks?
Sure. No, I've been working with our law firm in DC on this issue for 2 years. From all we see, yes, carrier is sitting on the other side of the negotiation table. They are, all of them, all the major carriers are part of the deal. So this, the technical spec is written by a group. It's leading by Verizon, the biggest carrier in this country. Mm-hmm. So yes, carrier is a part of the deal. They sign up for this deal after all the negotiation. So yes, from all we see, they're on this, and they all the major carriers also has publicly gave us the consent, basically a blanket consent in terms of use the signal booster on their network. So that's why this is such a big deal for our industry. Of course, we have to sacrifice a lot as well on our side to reach the deal as we got today. So I don't anticipate, we really don't anticipate the carrier give our industry any more, troubles, or because they're part of it. Now it's a partnership. On the contrary, I would expect carriers to come up with the online registration, on time, because it's in their best interest. Mm-hmm. If people are ready to register while they don't have the mechanism for people to register, obviously the blame cannot go to the people, the consumer, and even if they provide a online registration mechanism, believe me, there's still going to be a percentage, probably higher percentage of consumer who is going to ignore all this, not going to register, and government, frankly, couldn't do much about it. There's, it's hard to enforce that just because you don't register. they cannot send a police to your home, to enforce that. So that's why we would recommend, dealers or VARs helping the process, helping the compliance, and basically helping everybody, helping themselves as well. So it's a joint effort. I think a carrier has as much desire as us to working together to get the thing done, to get it done smoothly. It's beneficial. You can think of it this way. The signal booster costs carrier nothing. It's free for them, while at the same time it improves their coverage, right? And customer satisfaction, and the customer actually pays for it. So it's actually a great deal for carrier. And from all we see, carrier starting to get in that. So it is a win-win-win situation for everybody. And the old days is over. It's a new chapter.
And I would probably just add to that, the sort of the final aspect of that topic is, again, that gray area rears its head. And I think there remains a bit of a hangover, and until further clarification about that gray area and what constitutes an industrial versus consumer signal booster is finalized, the carriers are still, at least from the sales point of view, I hear still routinely the issues come up with carriers' interest in making sure that that large buildings have well-installed units. So, I mean, I think their greatest concern is that they're not causing interference with the tower, and our subsequent post-improvement amplifiers will be even less of a problem to them, even in that gray area industrial. So they will, again, the industrial level boosters will require more interaction with the carriers in general. But most of our products should fall below that, and we still expect large installation situations to require some interaction with the carriers anyway.
Mm-hmm. If I may add two more things. At this point, yes, as Curt mentioned, the industrial signal booster is a second choice. It's still a lot of hurdles, for manufacturers to go full blow on that. The consumer signal booster, on the other hand, is everything cleared. Is all ready to go. So yes, we do expect consumer signal booster will be vastly successful in the marketplace, both in business and in the consumer markets for the next couple of years, or 5-10 years to come. Last thing I want to add is, in the case for a dealer or distributor, in the case you start with some inventory, you forgot, after March 14th, the old inventories, you can always ship to Canada. Canada doesn't have this, and all the FCC rulings, and they still love the old signal boosters. So that's one of the solutions. Just to remind you guys. Thank you.
Great. Well, guys, hey, we definitely appreciate the insight today. Looks like we're just about out of time on our hour here. But again, I want to thank Curt and Hangtao for the insight there onto this market. And obviously, there were definitely a lot more questions that we didn't get a chance to get to, which I guess shows a lot of interest in this market. But we will be sharing those questions with both Curt and Hangtao for some follow-up afterwards if there's time for that. So again, I want to thank everyone for participating today. Curt and Hangtao, thanks again for the great insight there, and like I said, looks like there's lots of questions on this topic, so I'm sure you guys will be busy getting on top of those as well. So again, appreciate that, and for those who are listening in, we will have this presentation available on the RCR Wireless website here. Should be on the later on today. And also, there will be a replay of this webinar on the RCR Wireless site as well that you can check out in case you want to relive this experience, because obviously there's lots of good insight there. So, but again, thanks so much, guys, for the insight today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Good deal. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again. All right. Bye-bye.
We get off now.